Hey y'all, welcome to Maverick Gunworks channel. Today I'm going to talk about the Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm. This is the standard M&P. That is the Shield model. Okay, so that means it is a single stack. It's designed more for concealed carry self-defense situations. And with this being a Shield, it is a thin grip single stack magazine. We have as features a manual safety on this model, so that is a feature that is optional on these from the factory. We have a slide release button on the left side of the gun, which is typical for right-handed folks. And if you look at this, there's nothing on the right side of this gun. It is pretty much designed for right-handed people. So left-handed folks, I'm sorry, but it's not one of those ambidextrous things. Okay, just know that going into it. And I know the left-handed folks have been used to having to face that in their quest for a firearm, and this is probably not one of your best choices, honestly, if you're going to be a left-handed person. Just know that up front. Anyway, other than that, our magazine release also is for right-handed folks. In this case, we have a 7-round magazine plus one in the chamber, and with this gun, we also have a 8-round magazine comes with it. A little bit of extension on the bottom. It gives you a little bit more of a grip extension and one more round capacity. So for my hand personally anyways, that's a good option. But also be aware that it will add length to it as far as carrying in your holster and being able to conceal it. Okay. So anyway, that's all there is to that. We have our takedown lever, again, is on the right-hand side, or left-hand side of the gun rather, for right-handed people. And to field strip this gun, we're going to lock our slide back as it is now. We're going to rotate our takedown lever down, right? And with that, we'll release, pull it back a little tension backwards, release our slide latch, let it come forward to the fire position. Right? And with this case, we're going to have to, we do have to pull the trigger to make the gun fire, release your sear on the striker, and then it will come forward and fall off. Okay, and not that big a deal, just a matter of manipulating the slide with it. Okay, and here now we're going to put our hand on or grip the slide rather, like this, and push thumb pressure forward on the recoil spring. And here again, I like these recoil springs that are captured. You don't have to be concerned about it flying across the room and hurting something or hurting your finger or the boo-boo when you take the recoil spring out of it. There are some guns that are not captured spring like these, and they can be dangerous, honestly, when you take the spring out of it. And here we're going to lift our barrel up out of the slide, pull it up, nothing to it. Works very well. Okay. And to clean it, as with any other semi-automatic, we're going to run our cleaning patch through it with some solvent on there. And while that's soaked in a few minutes, we're going to do the same thing with our slide. A little bit of solvent on the slide to get the dirty crud out of our tracks, off the face of the bolt, and any other places where the carbon and dirt can accumulate. Once that's set a few minutes to kind of dissolve the gunpowder and carbon and crud, we're going to come back with some clean dry patches, clean all that dirty stuff off of it, and then finally follow that up with a good quality synthetic gun lube. And I prefer a synthetic all the way versus standard oil type product, because it is more friendly as far as the temperature changes. But you always want to wipe off what you do, which one you use, wipe it off and leave just a thin film. Don't leave it puddled up and all wet in there, because that just attracts dirt, and dirt will stick to it and grind up and ask you where you're going out faster. All right. So anyway, with that being said, got our barrel cleaned out now. We've had to, I'm going to swab through it, possibly a brass brush if you've been a while and you got a lot of carbon built up in it, or copper fouling. And then come back with some good lube, just a light film is all you need. Drop our barrel back down in here. Take our captured recoil spring with the closed end here on the recess that is in the front of our slide. Recess that in there. Grab your slide right here. A little bit of thumb pressure forward, and it drops right back down in place. And pay attention that it is in the center because that's something that you can, if you get this off a little bit centered, a little bit off center rather, you put it back on, it's going to cause a problem with getting the recoil spring to seat like it should in the frame of the gun. So make sure that is in center, okay, and we should be good to go there. And then with our frame part, since we've got the slide off of it, we're going to come back with our little bit of solvent here, clean off the tracks, the trigger mechanism, and our sear back here. This is the trigger sear. Clean all that up, wipe it down with a good dry patch, and then a couple drops of lube in the key points where you have friction, where any moving parts would interchange or interconnect rather. Also a little bit of lube on the tracks where your slide will be riding on, and keep those clean. And again, we don't want to get dirt on them. As far as leaving the dirt there and grinding, it will wear out these pads. And I have seen a couple times over the years where that is the case, and folks just did not clean like they should have. You'll end up wearing these the tracks here, and it will cause a malfunction. Right. And that being said, also another tidbit about these, I've had a couple situations also where folks have reloaded their ammunition themselves, and they had a tendency to want to put a little more powder in the cartridge than it should have been, as far as the minimal specs or maximum specs. And these guns are not designed to have extra hot loads fired in them. Okay, just know that. If you're going to hand load your ammunition, keep it down to where it should be a standard load, because we've had a couple of situations that was not the case, and the frame actually cracked on these. They had to be replaced. Okay, so that is a possibility there. Alrighty, we've got it all cleaned up, a little bit of lube on it. We're going to put our tracks back in place, slide that right back into position here. I'm going to pull it back and lock my slide open. Now I can rotate my takedown lever down, okay, and then release my slide catch, and she's ready to go back to work. There we go. So, and you can see with this is typical of a 3-dot white dot sight situation. Maybe the camera can see that part. And they're pretty good bright dots. And again, with these guns being very popular, there are a lot of options on aftermarket sights you can put on it. And I will tell you, if you choose to do that, I highly recommend that you take it someplace. If you don't have a sight press, you really should have it done by somebody that has a good quality press, because these are challenging to get off and put back on. They fit really tight, okay? All right, there we go. And with our trigger pull gauge, let's give it a whirl and see what the trigger pull feels like on this little 9mm shield here. Okay, this is right out of the box. We've not done a thing to it, so this is factory trigger. And so I might have to mention here that you see the trigger tab on this gun. It has a 2-piece hinge point in the middle of the trigger, so you have to, maybe the trigger camera can see that part, a little hinge point right in the center. So you have to grab the trigger, and the bottom of the trigger has to drop down before the trigger will be activated, because that is nothing, again, a safety feature of it. Okay. Other than that, then your manual safety has to be off naturally. So we're going to hold this down solid. Let's get a good hook on the bottom of the trigger. Let's see what we end up with trigger pull wise. Good gracious. That's 7 pounds. All right. That seems kind of heavy to me for a semi-automatic. And at the same time, it is meant to be a self-defense gun, so you don't want it to be too light to start with, because it would not be safe probably for a self-defense gun. If you're in a situation you have to use a gun to defend yourself, you want it to be a good trigger pull that's firm and where you mean to pull the trigger. At the same time, that being said, it's probably not the best choice for a target pistol or competition kind of pistol, unless you're going to do a lot of modifications to the trigger. Because you see a 7-pound pull right there, and it had to pull it a pretty good ways. I'm looking at this, if maybe the camera can see this part, how far we had to move the trigger before it starts to engage anyways. And then I'm going to stand here and I'm going to pull this, see what it feels like just pulling it here. It takes a lot of effort, feels like me, like, to get the trigger to break. And it's, yeah, it's a spongy kind of feel. And that's the reason why we have the option of putting different triggers in these things. I know Apex makes a really good trigger for this. We put a lot of those in, and honestly, it makes the gun feel totally different if you change the trigger system in it. It's good for a self-defense gun as it is, but if you wanted to have a better feel trigger, much shorter reset. I'm not a salesperson for Apex triggers, guys, but we put a lot of them in, and they work really well. Okay, just might be an option for you if you don't like to trigger in these things. All right, other than that, I think we're good to go. It's there's your take on the M&P Shield 9mm, a good, solid, dependable, I believe, concealed carry gun, and that could be something that you would enjoy, as long as you're aware of the some of the fallacies of it. That I think, anyways, the trigger is not the best in the world, but it is good for a concealed carry gun. All right. Anyways, if there's something we can help you with at Maverick Gun Works, give us a call.